notification hasn't come. Yes. Okay.
It's come.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks a lot, Venkat for joining. So,
You,
I'm just gonna read from the book itself about the author, but I've also done my research. We'll talk about it in a bit. So, Venkat, affectionately called as Shi Mpundu, father of twin girls, by his old Zambian classmates, heads IBM Quantum India. With a PhD from IIT Delhi and a 26-year tech career, he has earned 34 patents, published 150 research papers, and received the title of IBM Master Inventor. Venkat is dedicated to pushing India to the forefront of quantum computing. He also mentors at IIT Delhi, bridging theory with practical applications. A lifelong local, he has lived 80% of his life within 20 kilometers of his birthplace in Safdarjung, Delhi. I mean,
yeah.
so many things to pick up from here. This is a very concise about the author. Did you, I mean, do you mind if I ask, like, did you use ChatGPT to kind of summarize this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have to admit, I extensively use ChatGPT. Okay, because my English is not as good as ChatGPT's, so I give it things, and it creates nice, beautiful paragraphs out of it for me, and that's what I use. Yes.
Right, right. Okay. So just for to reiterate, 34 patents, published 150 research papers, and the title of IBM Master Inventor, right? In his 26-year tech career, which means it's more than 1.2 patents per year. How is that possible while you're working?
Actually, I have to say I've worked with very great colleagues. Okay, so what I've seen is that we get into a room with my colleagues, and you stay in there for 2-3 hours. Something good is going to come out of that, and I've been really lucky to work with excellent colleagues and collaborators, and that's been my secret. That's it. Yes.
I mean, most people who have succeeded usually say that about their team. So that's great. By the way, we are talking about the book QuantumNation, India's Leap into the Future. Just to give some context about like why we are doing this. So one, Quantum Computing India, we started in November 2019. So it's been almost 4 years now. By this November, it'll be 5 years. Uh, so our idea was essentially to create a community, but the term community is being like thrown around very loosely, right? You have a WhatsApp group that's called a community. You have a Telegram channel or a Discord server that's called a community. But one of my research areas itself is to essentially position communities as an economic institution. We essentially believe either the state to come and help us out or the markets to come and help us out, right? From an economic theory standpoint, these are the two economic institutions that we have always relied on. But when we think deeper, there's a book called The Third Pillar, which is written by Raghuram Rajan, where he talks about how the state and the market leaves the communities behind, right? So the Western world, which has reached a certain level of per capita income, is now thinking about how do you equitably distribute, right? Which means how do you think about economic systems that from the ground up is really thinking about equity at the core, right? We're not talking about communism here. We are not talking about socialism here. It's purely capitalism, but in an equitable way. So that's our research is about, so the book that I'm writing, The Internet of Value, is essentially about that. How do we reinvigorate a community-based economy? And we have set up a venture studio called the CommunityVenture.Studio, where now we are positioning skill-based communities as the birthplace of innovation where startups will come out, right? Not the other way around. Typically, startups and companies build communities, but we want to flip it and we say skill-based communities that will give rise to startups. And it's very logical, right? Like our forefathers were called hunters and gatherers for a reason. While we were still a nomadic tribe, right? Like we didn't have space, we didn't have language, but we still had the skill of hunting and gathering. Similarly, if you look at our India's Varna system, there's a reason why the Varna system is based on skills, right? skill essentially brings people together. That is the first and foremost thing that brings people together. Then language comes, then space as a nation, state, whatever. These things evolve out of this. So Quantum Computing India is built on such principle. So we'll talk more about it at a later stage probably, but our white paper is built on this Internet of Value protocol stack, and we call it SAO Commons, Sustainable Autonomous Organization. So a community, we have skill systems within the community, and the skill system essentially sets a per hour rate for individuals at the different skill levels within the community, right? And we have different paths. We have quantum machine learning, quantum cryptography, and we also started hardware. But after reading the book, I can clearly empathize with the fact that like most of the students who joined us and carved out a separate community for just hardware, these are peasant guys, huh? Now they've gone outside India to do their masters, and they're settled down there. Got nice jobs at Q. So this has been happening. So when I read the book, the real angst inside me, apart from few things like one, I mean, I'll go into this detailedly, but the thing is, the Q Krishi founder, when she reaches out to these financial institutions and banks and say that, hey, we can do fraud detection better through quantum tech, and they're like, oh, this is a new technology, let's wait and see. And then she says, wait for what? Right? Like you've written that, I can feel it, completely. So yeah, so if this also comes from experience. So my master's was in public policy, and my thesis was about leveraging Singaporean private equity market, and we came out with a policy which the government implemented, right, which is somewhat similar to what we are doing now, which is if you raise X amount of dollars from a private investor, then the government will match it 1:1 ratio, right? Yep. But one thing that I could see, which is kind of also missing in India, but correct me if I'm wrong, is so in Singapore there used to be something called an A star. An A star is a company that holds the patents of PhD students, right? So when we were doing our masters as from the business school, we used to go to the patent office, which is A star, and then we'll take a particular patent, and we had a whole 6 month, like our whole semester was around one particular course called commercializing technology, right? So we have to take IPs from A star. We have to negotiate with the researcher who has published that research, and then we come out with a business plan for it, and then we pitch it to investors. This has all happened in 6 months time frame while we are studying, doing our MBA, right? Yep. So one thing that I see missing in the way that we are also going is IISc, IITs can collaborate. Like there's nothing new about it. It will happen eventually. But the point is, can IIMs and IIScs come together? Now that's where the real change would be. Then these questions of, industry is asking like, I should wait and see. Because probably researchers are not putting it in the way that a company would understand. Probably, I'm not sure, right? So these are few ideas, that came to my mind when I was reading the book. One, obviously, the way that we are setting up community itself. I think it's novel, like nowhere else it has been tried, and we have done so many experiments on it. We run something called Quantum 30 right now, where it's a 30-day learning challenge for people, and every day they learn from one particular YouTube video, and they're not just learning; they also create content of what they have learned, right? And it continuously happens for 30 days. And the videos are curated from the best in the world, right? So all the best teachers are available on the internet, right? On YouTube, RI institution. If you want to learn quantum cryptography, it's like go to the source, right? Like Peter Shor's videos are there. So, so Quantum 30 is another experiment that we have done, and it works really well because we are not restricting people as to when they have to come on a Zoom call like this, because everyone's time is to match for live sessions to happen, right? Whereas these kind of asynchronous mode of learning has really created a lot of benefit within the community as well. Okay, so with that, this is the context of where we are coming from as a community. And the website itself says it's accelerating skilling and career development of quantum tech in India, right? Yes. And okay, so with that as a context, do you want to add anything to this or questions to this before we get into the book?
So I think I should say that thank you for inviting me, first of all. And secondly, the mission of your organization is really, as you said, unique. And it's also very important, especially because what we are seeing is, for example, today, in India, we have the digital stack, right, which has brought about huge inclusion, whether it's in the villages, people have accounts. But now, how do you take it to the next level? So that's where you need these technologies like AI and quantum to actually go to the grassroots.
Right.
And the skilling is one big aspect of that. And I think it's excellent that you're doing that.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, do you want to read a chapter? Like, how do we go about it? Or a specific section from the book? And we can dive into the questions as well.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the first chapter, right? And so in each chapter, what I've done is I start with this saying, right, from some prominent person, which is appropriate for that chapter. Okay.
Right.
And chapter 1, I picked this saying by APJ Abdul Kalam, which says that as young citizens of India, armed with technology and love for my nation, I realize a small aim is a crime. Okay, so actually this exactly says what the quantum mission is, because today we are, as a nation, we have the skills, we have some economic, level of where people have that at least some sense of security in terms of their, a lot of us at least, okay.
Right.
And here is an opportunity which is getting presented to us. Over the past 60 years, we have become like the software nation. Okay, we've got the skills, we've got a lot of local industry, we've got a lot of startups now, both internet and technology startups. And so we have set up that base, okay. And now when this new technology comes in, which is quantum technology, here is an opportunity for us, to take that, grasp it and take it, at least in the area of quantum software. It's for us to lose, if we ever lose, I mean, it's because we made a mistake, because otherwise it should be right there in our pocket. The other areas where we have to work hard is, whether we are setting up fabs for quantum, whether it is setting up hardware, peripherals, that's where we have to work hard, because we don't have a history of doing it successfully. But we need to do it. Okay, so that's chapter 1, and actually it sets the tone. So I don't know if we want to, if anybody has questions, or how do we want to really.
So I think we'll start with questions itself, because I think most people, at least within our community, are well aware of the National Quantum Mission. We have been having discussions about this, right? So general questions that I saw in the RSVP form. One is, what motivated you to write the book, and what is the process that you followed to write the book? And one personal question that I want to add along with this is, given that you have the scientific background, what kind of stopped you from not giving sources for the numbers or the codes that you have used? Right, like a bibliography of sorts is missing. So I was curious about that.
Yeah. Okay. So first question first. Okay, why did I, do this, right? So I get as the IBM person, the lead here, I get a lot of questions from students, from all the community, on things like, okay, how can I enter the quantum, how can I contribute? How can I start my journey? If I start my journey, what is in it? What are the hurdles? What are the challenges? What kind of applications? And this is not just students. Okay, I also go and talk to a lot of customers, customers from our banks, pharma companies, logistics companies, oil and gas, all of these companies. Again, there is this question about what is quantum. Is it a new kind of a supercomputer? Will it solve my problems faster? And if we as this company want to adopt it, how should we adopt it? So this book is really a sort of a landscape picture, not too long. I mean, I
Right.
wanted to keep it short so that people are able to finish it,
Yeah.
and get that picture of what is
Right.
going on, right?
Right.
uh, and that was really the aim, to sort of give this broad picture. And then maybe, once people start understanding, have subsequent, or maybe it's a series, I don't know yet. Okay. And
Right.
I really want that. Right now this is the beginning, but we should start seeing success stories, by
Right.
next year, by the following year. We should
நீங்க
start
குரூப்பிங் பண்ணீங்க
uh, so
டாஸ்க்
so when,
குரூப்பா ஆட முடியுது அவன் கேக்குறது அதான் கேட்கறான்.
KG, can you mute yourself? Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go on.
So not now, I will ask later. Please go ahead. I have a lot of questions. So I will wait
Okay.
for this question.
yeah, so that was really the purpose of this book, to give this view which I felt was missing, and also to highlight, some of the very, very big efforts that people are putting in at this point. We are not seeing the results yet, but
Right.
the effort is there. At least I wanted to highlight that. Okay.
Right.
Now, in terms of the process, actually, it didn't take me very long to write this.
Right.
After I put my kids to sleep, at night, I would spend about 2-3 hours every night for about 3 months. That's what I did. And I took a lot of help from Chat GPT, to
Right.
structure my sentences, because,
Right.
if you have a tool which helps you with English, you should take it, right? And yeah, so that was it. And then in terms of the, references and all of that, as a person in science, there is always this temptation to put in a lot of the scientific things in it, bring some rigor, put the
Right.
references, and I felt that would make it less accessible to people. If somebody has that interest to know the numbers, and in fact there is a website the publisher has helped me create. Okay, so I do intend to put some of
Okay.
these references there, because
Right.
you pointed out, because if you, I mean, anybody would want to maybe refer to these numbers when
Right.
they are, writing some report or any such
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And as you said, it is always good to have, where are you getting those numbers from, some credible source and all of
Right.
that. So I do
Right.
intend to put some of these details on the website. It's
Okay.
still work in progress.
Okay.
I wanted to bring out the book quickly, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that was the reason, right?
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. No, because I've seen this. This is the third book um, in which these references are not there, but all the books are written by either someone who's like really been there, done that in the field. So people just take their words as such, at face value. For example, Wisdom of Finance by Mihir Desai, right? But she has clearly mentioned that in the acknowledgement section that, hey, I want to make this accessible. So I'm not going to put that Oxford, whatever, right? References and Cambridge references, whatever you call it, right?
Yeah.
But she had put that in the acknowledgement. And now that I see in your book, then it also, for the book that I'm writing, it kind of gives back that thing of, man, why am I worried so much about these references? But then I think it's the quantum world here also, right? Like you really have to understand the context and the audience for whom you're writing and the timeline. Like you said, you wanted to bring it out really quick. So that's great. So 3 months for anyone who's like keeping tab. So he took 3 months, 2 to 3 hours of writing every day after putting his kids to sleep and taking all the help that he could from tools like ChatGPT. Obviously not for the numbers, but for like She said very clearly for English strength, sentence structure and the book's structure as well. Okay, so now that leads to the next question. So I'm curious about the structure of the book also. So what's the logic? I mean, I can see some sense of logic, but then the last penultimate chapter kind of distorted that logic for me, because suddenly we brought in the mythology part. Oh, here quantum behavior in large objects. But generally, like so, 17 chapters. But like, what's the logic that's like underlying all these chapters?
Yeah, see, around the end of last year or something, I saw this book, FinTech for Billions. Okay, FinTech for Billions by these Indian School of Business profs. Okay,
Okay.
and I found that book very accessible in the sense, I mean, you didn't need to know too much of finance or anything, and put it into these consumable sections, and that's something I've tried to do here, which is every chapter has these very short sections in it, and they're sort of, they're independent sections. You could take any section, and generally, it sort of has its own, it stands on its own to a large extent, right? And if you look at the flow of the chapters, the flow is sort of that, what is the National Quantum Mission? How are we in the classical era? We did some things very right in, especially in software. We were great there, though there were things like internet came late here, so there was some delay and all of that. And then there were some big misses, right? The hardware and semiconductors, we had a great start, but we just let it drop, completely dropped it, and we exported all that talent we produced, which could have created three industries for us. Out of those three, we just latched on to one and lost the other two, right? And that was a story I felt we had to tell, because quantum is something very similar. It's about computing, it's the future of computing, and here is an opportunity for us in all spheres to sort of take control, right? In some areas we have advantage, in others we don't. Okay. Yeah, and then the ecosystem, right? The ecosystem is basically startups, industry, academia. So I brought in those stories, right? Then the chapter, the one which connects to the Indian thing. See, there is this whole thing about, is quantum mechanics limited to small particles, right? I mean, and of course, right now that's the only place you see this all these strange quantum mechanical phenomena, right? And but there are all these, and I especially wrote that because it connects to the sort of the enthusiasm I see in everybody, okay, in India today. It it's much more than anywhere else. In 2020, we in IBM we ran this summer school, and half or more than half of the participants were from India. Okay, and that sort of enthusiasm, in the year 2020, there were just maybe 2-3 colleges that were offering anything in quantum mechanics, okay, quantum computing and all of that. So there was this groundswell of interest, which was self-generated. Okay, it was coming out of themselves. Nobody was telling them that this is a great area or anything like that. It was just people sort of saying that I want to go and learn this. And then I thought, why is this? Why is this interest there in this area? Compared to any other country, Indians are, taking this subject up, which is one of the toughest subjects to understand. Okay. And kids, even in 12th class students are coming and trying to take these courses. So where is that interest coming from? And I felt it is because of these the stories we hear from Mahabharata and the Vedas and all of that as children. our parents, grandparents tell us these stories. So I felt there was some connection which was happening, and maybe that's why. And that's also the chapter I least understand. Okay, and I took a lot of help from Ram Mohan, who is in this call right now, to
Right.
actually, tell me what is this, what is this connection. He pointed me to a lot of references. So I mean, it's the area I least understand, but it's also an area that intrigues me a lot, because I
Right.
feel there's something happening there which is creating an interest in the Indian students.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Hmm. That's okay. I mean, uh, very true. I've also been like going pretty deep into the spiritual realm, and I don't know if you're like trying to kind of counterfeit, like or retrofit, right? So you understand quantum physics now or quantum mechanics right now, and then let's say you're learning something about something in the Vedas, and let's say it's Purush and Prakriti. Prakriti is the particle part, and Purush is the
Yeah.
field or the wave component of it, right? So are we retrofitting it for the new knowledge that we are getting, or this has already been there, so we were drawn towards that, right? Like
Yeah.
what you're saying is the latter. We never know.
I don't know, and very true that actually we will probably never know also,
Right,
because a lot of that knowledge is lost. I mean, I
right,
see that even my parents or grandparents, the knowledge they had of these things, I don't have. Somehow
right,
we have lost our historical knowledge which we had in this area,
right,
and probably will not know. But for me, I think it's sort of an answer to why this interest.
right,
Why is this interest even in 12th class students in this
right,
very difficult subject?
right.
Something has to explain it, and to me, maybe this is what explains it.
Maybe this is yeah, yeah, true. Okay, so that's one. Should we ask Ram to add something to this?
Yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
I would be very happy to.
Hi, Ram. Yeah.
Hello all. Good evening. Let me just switch on my camera. Let me see
Yeah.
if
Sure.
that works. Okay. Thank you, Venkat, for inviting. Thank you, Moses. Uh, Venkat was telling he took a lot of help from me. To be frank, we just interacted very, very less times, and it's very magnanimous of him to acknowledge that. Having said that, now let me just give certain examples, or let me start by introducing myself. That will be much more easier.
Yeah.
Uh, as such, I'm a software engineer. I work for Hewlett Packard, and that's what my day job is. And one of my passions is also amateur astronomy, and I'm an amateur astronomer. I have set up my own observatory at home where I do uh, right from amateur astronomy to astrophotography to radio astronomy to Indian astronomy has been one of my subjects and passion of as learning. Now, when we talk about astronomy as such, it has got a very close relationship with mathematics. Now, if we go a bit into the history, I will just take a couple of well-known names and rather not go into uh, all I am trying to do is more of objectivity, not trying to go with any philosophy.
Right.
Okay. Now, the objective part here is that if you just understand two names, one is uh, Aryabhatta, whom we all recall and acknowledge to be an astronomer as well as a mathematician. So we all
Mathematician.
know about Aryabhattiyam. And then there is also Brahmagupta. I don't know how many of us understand Brahmagupta. So he also has been uh, a bit later to Aryabhatta, around 3 to 4 centuries later to Aryabhatta, and he's written a book called as Brahmasputa Siddhanta. Now, these two people were the first. Aryabhatta has been credited to give the positional value of zero, and the whole revolution happened. Correct. So until then, there was no positional value of zero. That means nothing has been given a value. Okay, first thing. Next, the mathematical correlations of infinity was also explained by Brahmagupta in his Brahmasputa Siddhanta. Now, if we have to understand nothingness to infinity, There is a whole set of things which come together, and the mathematics that we use today, where we say 0 divided by 0 or anything divided by infinity is infinity, all these value systems and the methodology to even think from the point of view of understanding nothingness to a largest and the larger of systems. Okay. In the same context, within Aryabhatiyam, there is another small chapter called as Kalakriyapada. So where he tells about uh, how time is neither, it has got a beginning nor it has got an end. So he gives certain definitions of time, and then he starts telling that the only way us as humans can understand time is that we have to split that into larger and smaller sections which are contemporary to us, like yugas. Then we have years, then we have months, then we have days, and then we have minutes, hours, and seconds, and so on, the smaller values. And then this is how we can put a scale to something which cannot have neither a beginning nor the end. Okay. And next, when we start talking about a bit more into the philosophical aspect, which is on the cosmic eschatology, that means how the universe began and how it is going to end. I'm going to give two more instances, once again, of very well-known scientists of like say Feynman, or even when we talk about Fritz Zwicky. Okay, Fritz Zwicky, do we know? Fritz Zwicky is one of the physicists, by the way. Okay, he was one of the first people to give the cosmological models and even give how the universe began and how it is going to end. So there is certain concepts called as the big freeze and the big rip. Okay, so it's where the gravity takes over, or the dark energy and dark matter takes over, and we have a gravity will collapse itself, like a star will die, and just like that, the universe will end. And then there is the dark energy, dark matter. So these are concepts which were imagined already in certain. We are not trying to retrofit anything. Okay, so that's a wrong notation to sometimes give, because these concepts are already there. We have inferences, and and based on these calculations is how the modern mathematics is working. Without the decimal and the place value system, even the qubits would have not worked, by the way. So and or even the basic Boolean algebra would not have worked. And if we know the Pascal's triangle or the Meru Prasthara, that is another thing. So I'm trying to give you objective references rather than trying to be bombastic and trying to say that, okay, we know everything. No, it is not so. So there are certain references where we can go back and correlate and then tell that, okay, this is what we can and we can't do. That is all. Those inferences or small references is what I tried to help Venkat with. That's all.
Okay, so Venkat and I were talking about this. And
There, I think.
yeah. So we were talking about this, and we came to the conclusion that you should write a book on this.
Yeah, that's to you, Ram. So
Yeah, okay. Doing some more research on this of my own, and I'm also doing serious study, given a bit of understanding of my own in Sanskrit, and then applied mathematics, and so let's see how it goes.
Very nice. Okay, thanks a lot. So for people who don't understand the context as to why we brought Ram on, so in the book QuantumNation, the chapter 16 is about India, quantum behavior and large objects. So then I was talking to Venkat about this, and he said he took help from Ram. So we thought of inviting him, and he has given a very big spectrum of thoughts, at least to process. And if you're interested, you can go and research on it. Basically, what I gathered is, as a civilization, we have thought about one extreme, which is zero, which means we are given value to nothing, which is insane. And the other extreme is the value of kind of everything, which is infinity. And then everything in between is where mathematics lies. So our numbers lie, so to speak. Okay, so lovely. Thanks a lot, Ram. Please consider writing a book, at least for people like us. Okay, KG, you have raised your hand.
That is amazing work, Dr. Elvi. And I know that this is just a humble beginning. Knowing you, I thought that we are expecting more from you, and the way how you are uh, covering the startup history. See, I'm a technical person. I should talk about the technical aspects in your book. But since I started my startup April, I directly jumped to the chapter where you mentioned the startup story. That is really, I would say, like the most relevant guidance or guidelines I'm looking for these days. And you clearly mentioned about the step by step. Now I look like it become like my reference because I keep it in phone also, because I bought the Kindle version instead of a paper version. I bought the Kindle version such that I can keep it in Kindle and then mobile also. So keep on reading multiple chapters. I want to write a full review, but the startup section I really like the way how you are calling out the contemporary organization. One thing I felt, if I have started my organization 6 months earlier, my company would have come in your book. That's what I'm missing.
Maybe in the next
Maybe the
one, right?
next book
Yes.
you would call out my company. One thing what I want to hear from you, the startup fund, the incubation system, the startup system, those are all very clearly explained in the book. That is really helpful for early stage startup like me, entrepreneur like me. Thanks a lot. And yeah, that is just I wish to say the mark what you are making is the timely release of this book is that is amazing. And a few things on the particularly about QPI AI and Silicofeller and other organizations, because those are an inside story, because I know whoever mentioned personally, I know them as well. And the story of Manan, me and Manan, colleague in Dell, we together built that Dell, um, what is called a club, a community in Dell. We ran the show for 1 year, then we left. We both left in the same period. All those things I'm able to connect. That is when the story, what I know, when hear from you and then read the book and the way how you are putting it is amazing. Thanks a lot. I'm waiting for next book from you.
Yeah, thanks, Karthi. And see, the very good thing right now is that there are VCs in the Indian ecosystem who are observing. Okay, they have some money, and they are observing, and it's only a matter of time before they start investing. Okay, the challenge in deep tech is the window of uh, sort of the VCs is usually 5 to 6 years. In that period they want returns. In quantum they are not yet seeing that. Okay, so unless they create a larger time duration fund, they're not going to, because these micro funds usually have a duration of 5 to 6 years, and they want to give returns to the investors within that time, right? So they're also figuring things out, but this is the right time for you to enter. And actually you need a solid plan. Okay, as long as you are able to create that and demonstrate that you can achieve those plans, I think the funding is going to get easier and easier. I know in the book there are sections where I've said it's really hard right now, and Indian startups are struggling, because they're 1000x less funded, which is true. But it's going to get easier as long as you have a solid, demonstrable plan, which you are able to convince by showing some parts of it executed. Then you have it all set.
Thanks, LV. I have a clear plan, but this is not the forum to discuss.
Yeah, we will.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the guidance. Certainly, I will meet you whenever time permits and then get your guidance. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, KD. Okay, so this reminded me of the other thought that I was having, which was generally the tone of the book, right? Because now, with respect to the startup side, you have talked about the struggle part a lot more. But on the and also the history standpoint, like how we have missed certain buses, right? Like manufacturing and fabrication, semiconductors. By the way, that whole incident about one factory fire and for closed down for 6 years, and then how that kind of pushed us back by 12 generations. That's an insane story. I never heard about that. I have to like dig deep into that to understand really what happened. Like, why did we put all our balls into like one particular lab, and then like now we are 12 generations behind, right? But generally, I'm like wondering about what's the tonality or the emotion that you wanted to invoke. Is it to give hope to people, or because for startup founder side, like KG was saying, if you're reading it, you're going to be like, man, I shouldn't get into this for the next 5 years. Probably that's the thought that you would get. But if you're an investor, probably it gives some kind of a hope that, okay, this country has so much potential in terms of so many STEM graduates coming out of the country who could be upskilled into quantum domain. Although I have a little bit of second thought on that with respect to the quality of students that we are producing also, right? But so that's why I'm wondering, like, did you have a set emotion that you wanted to invoke through the book, and were you able to hold that till the end?
Yeah, actually, I wanted it to be a positive book because
Right.
because we are at this point, we need some wins. Okay, we need those wins to sustain us, right? But at the same time, I wanted to make people aware that there are these things we have maybe done wrong in the past. Maybe even
Right.
today we are not doing it properly,
Right.
and we need this fixed. So in some sense, cautiously hoping for, cautiously giving hope. That's sort of the tone of it, and
Right.
also to highlight the struggles. I mean, yes, I mean, as a startup founder, you're right. I mean, maybe it comes across as it's really a hard journey, but it is also a hard journey. It's
Right.
very hard, and some of the the uh, the startups that have flipped meaning they've switched from India to other
Right.
countries,
Oh,
they, they're doing very well now. Of
yeah.
course, you're seeing the reverse flip also, where
Yeah.
some of the phone pay and some of the others are returning to India because
Right.
of the favorable conditions. But in quantum, that's not yet the case. Our situation here is not as favorable as it is in many other countries.
Yeah.
And also, I know for a fact that some of these founders are being given visas and sort
Yeah.
of like a diplomatic visa in some sense, saying
Yeah.
that. So there is that fight going on for the talent also, so we need to be aware of, what all is there. But at the end of it, we are very well positioned. So I
Right.
hope that message comes through,
Yeah. Yeah.
that we, well positioned, and if we sort of take care of these challenges properly, we will create this quantum economy for ourselves.
Right. So talking about this skilling thing, so one side it's about skilling people, right? Like uh, people who are going to go into jobs and they work for startup or a company. But in one of the chapters, I think in the same segment where we were talking about Q Krishi's founder, and then you were talking to your IBM colleagues, and they said the important thing that we have to do right now is to educate the businesses. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what do you think is a good way to think about someone who wants to, let's say, start a skilling company focused fully on B2B side?
Yeah.
Educating businesses, making them aware of this, getting them adapted to quantum kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, see, if you are a education company right now in generative AI, you will be
Right.
doing very well, okay? Because
Right.
every company today wants to enter that space,
Right.
and it has an immediate business need for
Yeah.
it, right? And so if you have a very good generative AI which sort of gives every company the, trains the employees, prepares them for creating these generative AI solutions, you have a very good business model where you can make money today, okay?
Right.
Quant it's not yet there. In quantum, that business need is not yet established. Okay,
Right.
If I go into a bank, see it as a technology maybe they will want to use in the future, but
Right.
they're still thinking, okay, can you show me, generative AI first, and then we'll talk about quantum, right? So, in that sense, the skilling companies, there is a market, not B2B yet. Okay,
Right.
it is more B,
Definition.
B2C is probably more, because I see a lot of interest in students from across India interested, but of course their budgets are also smaller. It's there, so it has to be a mass market, and B2C is all about advertising also, because if you are a startup, your brand is not
होने की रहती है ना।
in, yeah, sorry, can you
होने की
KK, can you mute Keshav? Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Abhishek has a question, I think, or something.
Abhishek, you have a question?
Hello, sir. Hello,
can
sir.
hear-
Are you getting my voice?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. So first of all, Venkat sir, many thank you for launching this book. It's a very good book and giving us a very broader vision that what can I do for our nation. So no doubt, last few days I have been studying this book and getting a lot of insight. So thank you. First of all, sir, what I am telling, presently I am working at Silicon Valley Quantum Company as a professional. And hello,
Yes.
sir, are you getting my voice?
Yes.
And sir, what I want to do in future in India, I have a plan to start a quantum computing startup for quantum machine learning, quantum simulation, and quantum optimization to provide various problem solutions based on those technologies, especially in the field of sustainable development or finance or business. So, sir, what do you think? If I directly started from India, or if I go to US to do a PhD and make some connectivity and capital and come back to India, that second option would be better for me.
Okay. So, see, first of all, the areas you mentioned, right? Whether it is simulation or machine learning or optimization and things like that. So today, quantum computing access, so you will get access, but you will get access to the simulators and the lower end machines at this point. Okay. If you want to get access to the best systems, let's say from IBM, it's going to cost you decent amount of money. So how do you first of all get access to these systems? To actually work on them is also something that you will need to figure out, right? So one is, of course, acquiring the skills. You need to acquire the skills to run these algorithms, and so definitely a PhD is a very good idea for you to do. And whether you do it from India or US is really up to you, because I think there are some very good places in India also for you to do your PhD.
And one thing I am asking, if I go to US and do my PhD, you think that ecosystem on the environment in US will help me to boost up my career, which I can use after coming back to India for the purpose of my nation also?
Certainly, I mean, there are many paths to, if your end goal is to start a startup in India in one of these areas, there are multiple paths to it, each one with its own pros and cons. And certainly the US option is very good, because that's one ecosystem which has a lot of maturity in terms of funding, in terms of the education quality, in terms of the the ecosystem that sustains you and provides you opportunities. So of course, US is one of the best places for you to actually start by learning and learning, about how the companies are operating, all of that. But, you know, you can do similar things in India also, you can do in US also, but it's really, I think, where do you see yourself fitting, and how do you see yourself achieving that goal of doing that startup in the next 5 years?
Okay, and sir, I have one question. If I want to do a project on quantum machine learning at IBM India, then what process or path should I follow
Okay,
for academic purpose only?
yeah, sure. So in IBM, we offer a lot of internships every year. So for example, for next year, summer, May, June, July, the applications will be called for by November, December, and the decisions will be made by January. So about 6 months before itself, we make the choices. This year we got about 60,000 plus applications for the internships. Okay, and it's a huge number. We cannot go through all those resumes ourselves, so we did use AI to sift through those applications. Okay, so so there is an opportunity, and of course people also directly write to us, whether on LinkedIn or email. Our emails are all there, easily available. And we also, throughout the year, we do give out projects to interested people to start working, whether it's in machine learning or molecular simulation, optimization, different kinds of problems.
Okay, sir, if I want to start it now, is it possible by sending an email or anything else like that?
You please send an email and we will figure out. Yes, certainly. And as I said, people keep sending these messages and all of that. So in one way you have to stand out. Okay, you have to, because we get so many applications, as I said, 60,000 this year for the summer positions. So you need to have done something, stand out either through your vision or the work that you have done. Something needs to be there, or you need to have a GitHub which is populated with a lot of good code sitting in there. So some of that has to be there.
Okay, certainly, sir. I am especially interested in the field of sustainable development,
Sure.
defined by UN, where I can apply my quantum machine learning, because I have been preparing for UPSC IS exam. That time I was fascinated by sustainable development, and now I want to implement with the help of QML. And many thank you, sir, for your insight, and definitely I will follow the path you have provided.
Thank you. So Abhishek, do connect directly. Yeah, we'll do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, so now, so I was just sifting through the questions that had come up on the RSVP form. So one thing that caught my attention is, so National Quantum Mission achievement till now, that's the question. But the extension of that could be, all the thematic hubs that are planned right now. Given the fact that we are a little late to the party, and we are also investing less amount of money, it really comes down to how efficient we are in terms of allocation of this, and how innovative we are, which we are good at, right? Like as Indians, we are good at that. So basically, will there be a dashboard of sorts through which we can track this National Quantum Mission? If that's something that the policymakers are thinking about, or if that's something that the industry can push and ask for them to show metrics, basically.
Yeah. So certainly there will be internal metrics they will set, and it will be visible to all the researchers, at least, for sure. Okay. Whether it is visible to the general public, that I am not sure, but from what I have seen, okay, DST is a very democratic and very open organization. So if you were to ask them some questions, they are not going to shut you down. Okay, so that much I can assure you. So even if they don't create a dashboard, for people who are keen and interested, you can always ask a question, and they've always been very approachable to everybody, not just a limited set of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not sure about this, but what they meant, but it could help someone else. I'm asking this. Uh, what are some book ideas around quantum computing or quantum mechanics?
Yeah.
One we have already talked about. So other than that,
Yeah, sure. So you see, I don't know if how much of that story people have followed in the book about the professors in IIT Kanpur, the Professor Mahabala and Professor Rajaram. Okay, so in 1963, these people, there was this computer they bought. Okay, and that computer from the airport to the IIT,
Yeah.
they could not take it in a truck because there were potholes on the road. So then they created this bullock cart with nice wheels on it, so that it goes softly to that place. Okay, and then these computers, these two professors, they would take extensive classes, and FC Kohli, who went on to found TCS,
Right.
would land up every summer, or whenever he got time, with his leadership team to go and figure out what are the use cases for this new computer, so that
Right.
we can use it in our industry. Narayan Murthy was the second batch of their new computer science program in master's program. So there was this extensive teaching that was going on, and then Professor Rajaram went on to write at least 30 books on various things: Fortran, basic, COBOL, fundamentals of computers, all of those. Okay, 30 books. And I finished my BTech in 91, and I also studied from his book. In fact, all of us who studied in the 80s and 90s, you're all young here, so you probably don't know. But those of us who studied in the 80s and 90s, we all studied from those books. Okay. There were no campus jobs at that time. Nobody came to our campus to pick anybody. There were no computing jobs. Okay. But we all did programming. We all learned those things. We all studied these books from Professor Rajaram. And then when this late 90s, there was this IT boom. Suddenly India had all these, all of us, people like me, who studied it, but who had nothing to do, were all absorbed into this industry. Okay. And that was the start of the IT industry. Okay. So we certainly need people like Professor Rajaram to write these technical books. Okay. So there are these technical books which are needed. I know there are several already out there, but we need an Indian professor to contextualize it into our setting, into our this thing. And there is a huge opportunity there for technical books. Okay, so that's one space where, like I said, there is this inherent interest in our students to go and learn quantum computing. Colleges are not teaching, but still we have talent which is coming up on its own. They are, as you rightly said, people are able to go on internet and watch shows, videos, and the Feynman lectures and this one and that one. So people are doing that also, especially in quantum. Okay. So, but and that's for the technical student community. But we also need books for the managers, because the industry leaders have to decide now. In the 60s, 70s, we didn't have any industry. TCS was just beginning. Infosys wasn't even born till 1981. But today, we have all these industries. We have startups, 100 plus unicorns and all of that. So we have a bigger base now to build upon, but we need books which show that path. So this is just a very, very scratch on the surface. We need people to go deeper. As you said, management schools, management teachers, professors, and practitioners to come and talk in that management language, talk in that language where the CXO gets it, the CXO, because they are the decision makers, they are the people who will invest, and they need to decide today. So there, the whole spectrum, that
Right.
zero to infinity is open right now.
Okay. So, yeah, just to summarize, that came out to be a good question and in turn a good answer. So on one side, we need technical books. I mean, like you correctly said, contextualizing to our audience with our analogies, our stories, that will definitely hit a chord. So technical books in the quantum tech field and Quantum Tech for Managers or CXOs. It's a course that we are actually like structuring within our community. I will probably send the format of it to you and get your feedback as well. But that as a book will definitely help.
And one thing I also want to add, there is this Qiskit textbook. Okay, people
yeah,
know about it.
yeah.
In India, it is available in Bengali, Tamil.
Tamil.
You don't have Java or Python books in
Yeah,
languages, but you have Qiskit. Okay,
yeah,
so which is again a very interesting thing to me. That
yeah.
why did the, and it's a voluntary effort. It was
Correct.
not done in any one
Yeah,
single organization or person. So why would people go and convert only Qiskit, quantum computing books into these languages? And I have already got offers for my book. People have come forward saying, I will translate it into Tamil, I will
right.
translate it into Hindi. So I don't know what is going on, and that's why that chapter 16 trying to connect something. I don't know if it's correct or wrong, but
Yeah,
I feel there is something there with that
correct.
in special India connection which is happening.
True, true, true. I mean, we shouldn't use the word retrofit. Now that Ram Mohan has said, right?
Yeah.
But I was like meaning it from a very personal standpoint, right? Like, okay. But also, this reminded me to go back to that chapter, quantum behavior and large objects. So, you have given this example of Yogi talking about, quantum tunneling of a person if your energy and your particles are aligned and whatnot. Um, we haven't seen anyone do that, but the behavior, when you say quantum behavior in large objects, this is something that is kind of been explored in finance and economics. The whole space of behavioral economics and behavioral finance, where the fundamental assumption in economics is that the rational man or a rational economic man is the core of everything, and then the economy is built around that person. Then that has been shattered, right, by the thinking fast and slow guys and everything. So when I was reading that chapter, that came into my thought, which is the large object here could be a person, and the person is at any point in time is in a probabilistic state between indecision and decision about everything, right? So what nudges that person towards a decision making point, right? For example, a CXO to invest in a quantum tech or a quantum R&D. Oh, this brought me one other important fact. See, this is when I really miss having sources, because I can only quote your book right now, right? Which is, so we spend close to 0.2% of our GDP on R&D, and that too mostly in the state, as in the government is spending that, whereas everywhere out, it's like 3.5% of the GDP goes into R&D, and companies invest in that, right? This is a very stark contrast, and this is a very important data point. If we drill down into that, the reason why we are lagging behind will like really come to the forefront, right? Like especially companies that give out dividends, but then giving out dividends is actually one of the signals that the company is not investing back in R&D, right? So we are so used to the short-term dividends, and we think that's a good company, and we go and invest. But the dark side of that is that they are not investing in R&D, and that's one of the reasons like we don't have, like TCS should have created a quantum computer by now, but they haven't, right? Like the service mentality and stuff. I mean, I'm not generalizing. Okay, so 2 points I mentioned here. One is behavior of human beings in terms of decision making that could be juxtaposed to the last but one chapter. And the second thing is with respect to this R&D thing, can you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, actually, that's a very unique way of thinking. The indecision part in human, thinking, it's very intriguing. I mean, I never thought of it like that. It's a very nice way to think about it. Um, Now, in terms of R&D, okay, so there is this. Uh, Somehow our companies, because of for historical reasons, they're, I mean, they all came up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when we were not a very rich country. Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
all of us, I mean, even our parents, all of them have lived through very tough times, right?
Right.
So that risk taking, is missing at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, which I see in some of the youngsters today.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
they've come through a better, so I mean, as parents, their parents have, for the current generation, they've given them a more stable sort of a place. So they are more they are able to take that risk, right? But in terms of R&D, and R&D is always about risk taking,
Correct.
because out of 10 things you will try, one
Right.
will succeed, but that one thing you will succeed big. Okay, so that's
Right.
how recover your investment, right? So that's what happens.
Right.
But two things are missing here. One is the confidence. Because we haven't done much of it in the past, we are
Correct.
not very confident about doing it.
Right.
Second is, that because we come from that place where we had to sort of ensure some basic necessities for ourselves.
Yeah.
So so it's, nobody is to blame. It's just
Right.
some cultural issues which we now need to move beyond. I think as a nation we are ready to move beyond that. We are also seeing it in the number of startups which are there, in the number of young people who are entering. In quantum, I gave this in the book also, I've talked about it. Most of the startups are by very young people, people
Right.
just fresh out of college and all are willing to put in, but people in their 40s, 50s aren't there.
Yeah.
Most of them are missing,
Yeah.
because I think it's a cultural, historical perspective which is probably coming in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great point. People with 15 to 20 years of experience, that whole batch is missing. And the cultural context that I was thinking while I was reading that in the book is from Brahmacharya, you go into Grahastra, and then you go into retired phase. That like in right. So culturally, the risk-taking phase was never there, right? We were always optimizing for something bigger, right? Like which is overall well-being and whatnot. Uh,
Yeah.
so maybe certain aspect of the culture we have to let go of when it comes to things like this. But what you said about the first thing, confidence and the generation thing. I used to also have that thought, but now that we are talking about your 16th chapter and Ram Mohan's quick talk, what I'm realizing is if you look at our modern history, which is very less, right? Like 1947 onwards, and then there was all the poverty, people were dying. So where is risk taking? You want to like really safeguard and have food. We were the generation where we looked at like little fat people and we thought they were wealthy because they had more food to eat, right? Like that's the parents' generation. But if we go a little further down, right, like not just start from 1947, you go all the way back, then we have taken enough risk. So I think in that context, we should take enough courage from our culture. And in terms of, let's say, optimizing for well-being and like not taking risk, I think we should like unlearn certain things.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Okay, so this has been fascinating. Anyone else here has every MNC should have its mission and mission related? Yes. Fan of our okay. Anyone else has any questions? You can put it up over here. If not, I'll try to summarize or at least my learnings. So the yeah. Listen.
Yara and Abhishek raised their hand.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. What role? So you said you go through resumes with AI. So what role does do you have any advice for soft skills and hard skills? Because I think networking is probably also important to break in this field and to be on the business side of things. So do you have any advice, any learnings for maybe mistakes that people had in balancing the hard skills and soft skills in networking to be in this field?
Was Yara only breaking for
Oh,
me?
yeah.
Is my network? Sorry, I.
So I'll try to summarize. Yara, you correct me if I'm wrong. So what she's asking is, since you said you use AI to sift through 60,000 resumes to shortlist people, she's wondering what kind of role does soft skills play in these kind of vetting process, or generally
Yes.
what kind of very interesting question.
Yes, actually it's very hard. Okay, I go back and think about it. There will be some very good candidates, and we might miss them. Okay,
Yeah.
and because we didn't build the AI model properly. So you all know about bias. AI models, female candidates, traditionally it biases them out because there are fewer female candidates anyway, right? So the AI model learns that males should be prioritized. Okay, so those kind of biases we are fixing. Okay, those are probably fixed by now. But then, coming to think about it, the candidates we finally went on to select were also candidates who were very persistent. They would send emails, they would point us to their GitHub. So what happens is, you would have selected a few resumes out of this 60,000, but then you will go and say, oh, okay, maybe Yara has just written to me with this saying that here is my GitHub and I have this many lines of code here already. So maybe she's better than that other candidate which I have picked. So my point here is be persistent and don't give up. Sometimes AI might be doing the decision making and maybe you aren't even noticed. Don't feel bad about it. Don't sometimes I also see that on LinkedIn what happens is people send me messages and then that message goes down. Okay, after a few days, though I might have remembered it, it goes out of my mind and I can't even find that message. So unless that person writes to me again, that message is lost. Okay, so it's lost forever. It has gone into a black hole. So people might think, I this person is not responding, is not a good person or whatever, but it's not like that. We are all human, we all have limited time. I want to spend with my family also. So what happens is, I so so I think, Yara, to answer your question, soft skills here means being persistent, being sure of yourself. Don't give up. Be sure that what I have done is good work and I will continue to do. Don't lose that self confidence just because this year IBM didn't pick you or this year Google didn't pick you. It doesn't matter. Maybe there was a lacuna in their part and you were doing well. Don't let that affect your self confidence. You have to have that aim and keep working at it.
Very nice question. I don't know if any other Indian would have asked that, but yeah. Yeah, Abhishek, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hello. Sorry.
Yeah.
In your IBM platform, there is QuantumComputing Nature, which is dealing with physics. Hello.
Yeah, can you repeat? What
Yeah.
was the question?
What I am asking, in your QuantumComputing platform, there is one segment called QuantumComputing Nature, which is dealing with natural science like physics, chemistry.
Nature.
Now I am asking,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. If I go through the history of quantum computing, Professor Feynman told that nature is not classical, it's quantum. And if we want to simulate it, we should make it quantum mechanical. Another, Professor Seth Lloyd of MIT has few years ago published one book and one research paper also proposing that with the help of quantum computing approach, we can go for theory of everything or quantum gravity. Now, my question is this possible if one use your QSKIT nature platform to find a theory of everything or quantum gravity approach in physics? So how that platform can help us is my question.
Yeah, so actually these are all open questions, Abhishek. I mean, if people knew, we would all know by now, right? Because if somebody is able to answer these questions, so these are, all research questions. But the fact is that there are, for example, molecular simulation. You can't do it with the best of supercomputers, even even though supercomputers keep increasing in their power every year. There are these phenomena which you cannot simulate on a classical computer ever, right? And that's where quantum computers come in. And that's why, for example, drug discovery, at the end of it, you have to take the two proteins, pour them in the test tube, and then observe, because your classical computer can never simulate these properties, right? And that's why you need quantum computers. Yes, and today the challenge is you don't have enough qubits to be able to do all of this, and hence people are coming up with algorithms with the currently available qubits to perform whatever simulations they can do using the quantum computers.
Okay. So basically to solve the complexity problem.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. Yeah, Prashant.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, I am Prashant, MSc Physics graduate student. And sir, luckily, just 5 days before, I provisionally selected for PhD at IIT Dhanbad. And sir, I have a general question that want to know from you. Which steps I have to follow so that my PhD journey would be more interesting. And sir, I am looking my research area in quantum computing, like quantum optimization, quantum many-many system, something related physics and chemistry. Yes, sir.
Okay. So sorry, somehow my when somebody speaks, the voice recently hasn't been very clear. But I think you are asking about the PhD problems that you should be working on because you are a student at IIT Dhanbad now, right?
Dr. LV, I can summarize what Prashant told. Prashant recently got admission into IIT Dhanbad.
Okay.
He is
Fine.
very good at mathematics and physics because he is my mentee. I know very well. He is really good at mathematics. Now he wants to do what will be suitable for his PhD research, whether it is optimization or any other subject.
Yeah. So there are several, very good problems that are out there right now in quantum algorithms, quantum information theory, all of these areas where somebody who is good at mathematics and physics can start, coming up both with the theory for it and also the experimental demonstration on the quantum computers today. Okay, the only thing I want to add to, and we should definitely connect, okay, separately, where we can work out the specific problem that you might want to work on. Okay, but the one thing I want to say here is that uh, for people with physics background, often they ignore their computing skills. Okay, and today I feel a lot of this people from physics should also take up, let's say, Qiskit programming, uh, because it will help you in actually, once you come up with some theory or algorithms for doing something, it is a good way to actually test it on the quantum computers, on the 100 plus qubit systems. And a lot of the good papers which are coming out today are actually real systems or real implementations that people have done on today's quantum computers, the best quantum computers. So yeah, please reach out, and we will certainly figure out areas which match your skill sets and strengths.
Okay, so Prashant, you please reach out to sir on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn would be the right way. Okay. What advice on networking to raise money? So certain things I think we can. Can you please see the chat and pick one or two that you want to answer, and we'll try to finish in the next 8 minutes so that we don't hold you back.
Okay. Will quantum computers make every NP hard problem? No. So see, right now we are not there. Okay, so don't even think about these NP hard and all those problems at this point. Just pick actual problems which you have, which you can benchmark against the classical computers, because what you really want to show at this point is that you can do some things better than classical computers. The NP hard and all will come later, when you actually have a lot more qubits and more stable computers which you can work on. Okay. Then there is, and if we have any questions, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
What
yeah.
advice?
Asked, what advice on networking to raise money do you have for startup founders in this space? Because when I helped raise money in USA, before I had to go out a lot, but it was for a different industry. Okay. Yeah, so quantum right now, okay, there are very limited number of startups. Okay, in India, if you see, there are about 20. In the US, maybe 100 or 150 max. Okay, and it is a sort of a closed community where everybody. So people will come to know what work you are doing. So to raise money, I think the best way is to actually build something to begin with, because otherwise, you need to have very strong credentials, like you're a professor with demonstrated research from the past or things like that. But for young founders, you might not have those things on your resume. So the best way is to actually build something and then go and show it to a startup founder to say, okay, I've built this and this is my vision. And that's the best way in which start, because they want to see, startup VCs, they want you to succeed because that will help them make money. But how do you demonstrate that you will succeed? So you need to have something to show, and that show is something you have to figure out, because you will have limited money to begin with, limited resources, people will be limited. So using those one or two people, what is it that you can build and take in front of the startup founder to give that VC, to give that confidence that you can do it, the vision that you have, you will be able to execute it. Okay, Ash has asked, as far as I've learned, we need to be able to put qubits into a controllable state to make use of them. And we aren't that high on the number we can control as of now, nor is the number increasing that fast. So won't this put the industry on hold if progress is slow on this front? Like progress in nuclear fusion has slowed down. Apologies if the question is too layman. Okay, no, you're right. That there are lot of challenges in terms of the coherence time, the amount of time in which you can put it into that controllable state, the number of qubits, as you said, that can be controlled and put into entanglement. All of these are research questions, and there are multiple technologies like superconducting, photonic, ion trap, cold atoms. Many such technologies are being tried to achieve what you have listed there, right? um, but that still, the potential for this, if you achieve it, is very, very high. And many of the, industry leaders, whether it's IBM or Google, at least right now believe that it can be scaled. Okay, it can be scaled, and it's more a, the fundamental physics problems have been solved, and now what we need is those engineering innovation to be able to scale the number of qubits, to improve the coherence, to mitigate the errors that are seen right now. So I think right now, at least the people who are working are believers. Okay, they believe strongly that they will achieve it, and that's why they are in here. Okay, and I think if there is an element of doubt, the it's harder to make progress. So if you look at any quantum scientist today, they will be on the optimistic side. They will be believers, total believers. So even from me, you are not going to hear that, no, I think we will not do as well as the example you've given, nuclear fusion, because I totally believe we will get there. Okay, so probably people who are working in quantum today are the wrong people to ask this question, because they have no doubt in their mind. Okay.
So related to this is my last thing, about the terminology of qubit, right? So I understand bit and classical side, and here we are calling it qubit. But just, I don't know, when I was reading this book, I just had this thought, like, why can't we just call it waves? Like number of waves. Why do we even went with the terminology of a qubit? Because that's creating a lot of confusion, right? Like the moment you say qubit and you tell them that, hey, it's between 0 and 1, probabilistic state between 0 and 1. Instead of that, if we say, hey, classical computing works on particles, which is bits, here it works on waves. Won't that be an easier way to, what was the reason behind terming it as qubit in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you ask this question now, it is making me also think. Okay, but I would assume that, as humans, we always like that continuity, and we like to contextualize things. So maybe somebody there thought that, bits, qubits, and bits do this and qubits do this. So if you listen to any quantum computing scientist today, they will always start with that, saying that today's computers work like this, and
Yes.
quantum computers work like this,
Right.
and you want to bring that continuity. Maybe that's the reason. But it's a very, thought provoking question that you have. Yes.
Then I thought, like, maybe that's why they are calling it D wave, like the waves,
Very
right?
true. Yes. Yes.
That could be. Uh, okay, so this was really nice. Let me try to gather my thoughts along. So we started off with,
And say that, people can reach out to me anytime, and as I said, I get a lot of messages, and sometimes they get lost, but be persistent. Yeah, just and that's true not only with me, with anybody. For example, even with Moses, if you are persistent, he will also start noticing you. So that's how humans are. The more we see somebody, we sort of place our trust in that person and start talking more with that person.
yeah. Um, First of all, thanks a lot. This has been really good. I generally read about the author before I start reading a book, but this time I did a little differently, and glad that I did, because by the time I reach the end of the thing, I'm like, oh man, whose book am I reading? But it didn't sound like that at all. That's a great thing. It didn't sound like a research book. So anyone who's interested in understanding what's happening with India with respect to quantum, and if you're interested in research side, there's whole chapters about, for whoever asked about your PhD research topics and stuff, he has given very clearly what are all the different components, different research areas that's possible. You read the book first, have your, let's say, one or two ideas, reach out to him and be persistent about it, right? That's a great way, because now you're saying, hey, I read your book, now I want your time, right? I want your guidance, basically. So that's on research side. Similarly, for people who are starting out on the startup side, I mean, I won't say it's a downer in the sense he has narrated stories of founders' struggle, and which also kind of the perspective in which that we have to look at it as a startup founder is we don't have to go through those hoops and things because they have already done that for us, right? And their stories are captured, which means from now on it should be relatively easy for anyone who is coming into the field. And like anything, it's always that a little bit of like number of startups that are coming out in this space will increase the funding that's going to come into the space as well. So it's a chicken and egg problem, right? So more of you have the courage to start, like Venkat was saying, youngsters are starting, and there's a huge gap after like 35 to 40 people are not starting. So if either ways, right, wherever you are, the beginning of your career, it could be totally confidence out of ignorance, but go for it, right? 35 to 40, it could be confidence from your experience, go for it. But the point is to start, right? So research side, so these two things are major takeaways. Apart from that, if anyone is interested in writing books around these kind of topics, one thing, so we talked about two spectrums here as well. One side is the pure technical side of things. Like there's enough need for Indian thoughts to come out, Indian analogies to be adopted into the technical books and the language that we are going to be reading. And on the other side, this is again a major thing, which is, can we talk the language of business? So quantum computing or quantum tech for CXOs, right? If you're interested in these kind of areas also, you can start thinking. But if you're especially interested in the book side of things, you can reach out to me. I'm interested in the business side of books writing as well. Anything else we missed out? Just to put out the thoughts for me also to keep in my mind. One is the quantum behavior in large objects can be thought of as human beings in a quantum state of indecision to decision. That is one. The second thing is, if someone asks you to explain qubits versus bits, you can always start off with explaining this works on bits, this works on waves, and then you can take people forward easily. All right. So did I miss anything? Venkat?
No, I think that was great. You did a good summary, and it's been a great discussion. A lot of good questions. You created a lot of thinking process here for in everybody's mind. Thanks.
Thanks God. I mean, it all started from the book. Also, I really love the first quote, though it's by Abdul Kalam. Let me just read that. I think that's a great note to end this on. But also, people who are here, if you want to turn on your cam, we can take a picture, so we can put it on social media, and I'll superimpose the book also over here, so the book is on. So the quote goes like this: as a young citizen of India, or any citizen, armed with technology and love for my nation, which is kind of common across all of us here, right? I realize a small aim is a crime. Like, how powerful is that statement?
Yeah.
Right? Crime, like adharma, basically, if we take it from a Sanskrit standpoint.
Very true.
Right? And in Tamil, there's a poet called Bharadiyar. He says, Peridinum peridu kale. In the sense, you ask bigger and even bigger things from yourself. Right? So that's a great way to end the thing. I realize a small aim is a crime. And I've read something similar in the Western context also, which is mediocrity is a sin. Right? Okay. Cool. This has been wonderful. People who have turned on your cam, I'm going to give you another Anurag and Swastik, if you can turn on your cam. And Prashant, you as well. And take a quick picture. Should we do some kind of clan signs?
Yes. Is there a sign for your Quantum India?
Or QCI? Yeah, we came out with it, but KG, where is it? KG, you're muted.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just, yeah. Is it okay? LV, note Mr. Manaksha, Dr. Manaksha. I will talk to you later.
Okay.
Oh, the Army General.
This is Anaksha. Thank you, Karthik Ganesh. Thank you.
All right, just 1 second. Everyone hold your poses. So let me take a screenshot. Okay. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right. Lovely.
Okay, thanks a lot. Very nice.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Please go
everyone.
read the book, QuantumNation. Yes.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sam, went very well. Great.
Huh.
Thank you. Now recording Anchur. I'll stop recording.
Yeah. There's one more Maneksha here. It is